Welcome to Biggest Geekus. We are your hosts. I am Joe.
I'm Randy.
This is episode 27 of our podcast, and the date is Wednesday, March 10th, 2021. Yeah. So we just had a rant, so my brain's a little backwards right now.
That's all right.
We
Yes, we
gamed this past weekend.
good times revisited. You guys made it to the City of Sanctuary. Yes, I'm stealing from that actual one. That if you know the books from Robert Aspirin, I'm still in that city, whole hog sort of. I'm still in names and I'm doing what I want. But you guys got yourselves a little mission. That was fun. Got to do a little exploration in the city. So I had a good time.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Didn't get a whole lot of total adventure done, but it was cool.
Right. We have some disparity in outlook for across our characters. So there was a bit of disagreement on whether we were going to rescue the screaming lady.
Oh, yeah. You guys were in a place called the Maze, which is a rough and tumble section of town, and it's literally a maze to get around in. There's a famous vulgar unicorn there, and you guys got suckered down an alley, though half you knew it was a sucker play, by a couple of thieves and their leading sorcerer lady who set you up as if, oh, I'm in trouble, and you come down there, and she decides to blast you with a poison spell, and it was a gas. It was a gaseous cloud spell that would poison you and fatigue you and all that. Everybody made their saves, of course, because they stink. Players didn't fail for me. So,
how dare we?
You guys kicked butt and took names, but yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, she got an arrow in her shoulder from my character.
Yeah, she did. And man, I should have given Jenny a chip. Her character is like ruthless, and boy, she ripped that. Her character is a male dwarf sailor, and he is pretty hardcore, and he did not like being tricked, and he put her down after she was wounded. He said, nope, no mercy for you. Ripped her heart out, done with her.
Well, it wasn't so much the trick. It was, I think it was like, this isn't what we're doing. We're supposed to be going over here, not over here.
Right. You're going to meet the guy.
He was frustrated about even having to deign to come down this, this alleyway.
And I had you guys really nervous with all the NPCs telling you don't want to go to the maze, you don't want to go over there, and then I made it real kind of narrow, and everything was sharp turns and people in the shadows and people standing over garbage cans that were burning, keeping warm or up to no good. And so the players were like, man, we got to find this vulgar unicorn. And they were following, and they was told there were these signs there, right? And I thought that was really cool. But I said, signs can be screwed with. But you guys found the path there. And as soon as you located what appeared to be the vulgar unicorn down this, let's call it street, then quotations, you guys can't see my air quotes because it's very narrow. They heard the scream before they got there. So it's like, we're there. Why are we doing this? We made it through this, thief infested, backstabbery, dark place. And why are we screwing around? So yeah, I can imagine she wasn't happy about that.
No.
Or he wasn't happy about it. Yeah.
The character. Right.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure Jenny was thrilled because she got to kick butt and take names.
Right.
So, yeah, that was cool. So, other than that, I'm getting ready to run 5E tomorrow. I got a pretty sweet little adventure I'm going to run for my buddy Philip. These guys have been on our show. A couple other friends going to do a one-shot. He's been GM, and I'm going to give him a chance to play. So, a little Planescape 5th edition action.
Make sure you kill him.
That's the plan. I want him to have to start over.
Yeah. Start at 1.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loves to start at first level.
Well, yeah, because first level's the best.
Yeah.
Every other level's boring. You get powers and stuff, and you can do crap. What's the point in that? That's no fun.
It's so fun when you always miss, and every attack is a potential day ender.
Correct. Is my character he got hit? I'm dead. Possibly. You have 6 hit points, and I am rolling a D8, so it's very possible.
Very possible.
Good times. I love first level.
Yeah, it's easy to challenge first level party.
Yeah. You see a you see a pissed off kitty cat. Oh
no!
Run! You're an archmage. You're a wizard. I have sleep, and I've already cast it.
I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, moving on to gaming news.
Yeah.
So this week has been a a little bit of uh, actual news instead of just there's some new gaming paraphernalia out.
But there is one, which Joe found, by the way.
I found
me.
actually.
Yes.
I recommended all the news, I think, this time around.
You did. So that was cool. It was good. I like when you do my job for me.
Yeah. So apparently there's this thing called the Perfect RPG, and it's
On Kickstarter.
creator on Kickstarter.
Yep.
At the last, well, I heard a couple of conflicting things. One I heard was that the creator, what was his name? I can't remember.
Luke Crane. He's Luke also Crane. A VP of some sort on Kickstarter.
Which is kind of odd that he would be making a Kickstarter. It's kind of odd.
Conflict interest.
Maybe. Yeah, something like that. At the last minute, at the last minute he revealed that this Adam
Coble
fellow,
Dungeon World fame,
was part in had a part in it. Another story I heard on a podcast was that Adam talked about it himself in social media.
Oh, okay.
So that's how it got out. And then once the word got out that he was part of it, folks on the project bailed. And so Adam is not just well known for Dungeon World, he's also well known for being what looks like a huge douchebag.
It does sound like it. I mean, that's if you check out the Far Verona actual play podcast, there's the incident. You can find it on YouTube, lickety split. You can see what happened. We won't go into details, but we do talk a little more about it at the end of this podcast. There's going to be a rant section we decided to put at the end, so you don't have to hear us complain, but news wise, that's where you would find it.
Yeah. So people bailed and the Kickstarter was canceled.
With I think 600 plus backers already in.
Yeah, there's some hubbub that it's and it does seem a little shady. Apparently, you just said his name and I just forgot it again.
Crane or Coble?
Crane. So apparently Crane has done other shady things with Kickstarters in the past, and just the fact that he's an exec there, I don't see why he would even make a Kickstarter. That seems weird.
Yeah, I mean, there's in my business of teaching community colleges, I can't have a full-time job where I work and a full-time job at another place. I can't do things to sort of like benefit, like say tutor my students at a price.
Right.
That would be my own students in my own class.
Right. So
that's pretty shady.
Being an employee at Kickstarter and then having a Kickstarter in which you have behind the scenes, lots of behind the scenes control that other people who just are not associated with the company,
correct,
they don't have. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have been talking about this thing we like, or it's a label that the Kickstarter gets, where it's kind of a recommendation from Kickstarter.
Oh, yeah, right.
I can't remember what the label.
Yeah, they give it like a little, hey, thumbs up, this is a cool one, you should check this out.
Right. So he can just, and apparently he put that, he might have put that on a Kickstarter of his own. So or something like that. It's just kind of weird.
It smells fishy.
It is very fishy. Something else that's fishy. I don't know. Is it fishy? Zach Smith being suing Gen Con because he supposedly did things that haven't been proven.
Correct.
And
this Zach Smith dude is part of he published a lot of stuff for Lamentations, and he had some credit initially on the 5e D&D handbook, player's handbook, him and RPG Pundit, and they got erased. Their credentials got erased by WotC. And I think he is claiming that has harmed his livelihood. He was up for some sort of, he was accused by his ex-girlfriend, wife, whatever, I don't know what she was, of sexual abuse. A lot of folks in the community lost their minds about it. And it may be true. He sounds, I mean, from what I've heard from a lot of people say, he might be a creepy dude, but he was not found guilty of that. And yet Gen Con keeps him away. So that smells a little bit like, what are you doing? You know, you don't need to be, he was found not guilty. So
I think the worst thing isn't merely that they uninvited him. They made some disparaging social media posts about him.
Yeah.
Company.
He said it's affected his livelihood. And I know I was listening with, I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
It's one thing. It's one thing to say, as a company, Gen Con might feel that he's too controversial for them to have around, which is possible.
Right.
If they would have just said maybe behind the scenes, hey, look, you're just too toxic right now. We can't have you. But
or, you know,
if they just kept it quiet in the background, I know people don't like it keeping it quiet. They think that's kind of shady of itself. But when it comes to this kind of thing, where nothing has been shown that he's done, it's just somebody's accusing him, them making posts about him that they can't really corroborate. They're just saying things bad about him. It's just bad. I mean, it's one thing if a private individual, you know, Joe Blow, Joe Me, they just says Zach Smith's a douchebag. Who cares?
You're welcome to your opinion.
Yeah, but as a corporate entity, they have different rules.
I don't know the guy, but I do believe he was like he did D&D with porn stars. He had a little D&D online thing he showed years ago.
I saw a little clip, and he just seemed really odd, creepy, odd.
Yeah, and the girls were like half naked. I think I saw it years ago, and he but he was still accepted at Gen Con. I mean, he got to go. So it's funny that they would be like, yeah, we don't care if you do. And Lamentations of the Flame Princess, that's pretty sexualized, edgy, dark stuff. And he was allowed to be there after that. But then when he gets accused of something, even though I don't know for sure, but I think he was exonerated. And so, or at least it was like they couldn't prove it. So, but yet you're going to hold it against him now? That's pretty weird.
You know, that whole thing, when we were in grade school, you know, as kids, sometimes we'd draw little characters on our paper in the margins, and and some of them had boobs.
Right.
And we all snickered like little kids.
Sure.
So that's what I feel about the artwork for Lamentations. I was looking at it and like, come on.
Yeah, it is pretty.
They call it adult, but it's really not adult. It's
not.
It's preteen, snickering crap.
You know, in our opinion, my opinion, Joe's opinion, I would never buy that crap. People like it. I really like it. I think Tinkar likes a few of his things. Something about Red and Pleasant Land is supposedly a great, some piece of D&D type thing.
Right. The game behind all this art may be just fine. It's just kind of dumb.
Yeah, not my cup of tea. But yeah, it sounds like Gen Con could be in trouble. We'll see how this goes out.
Right. Yeah, and we reference one of Tinkar's videos. It'll be in the show notes when he talks about it, about the lawsuit. I read through. I didn't listen to the whole thing because it seemed like he was just going to read it.
Right.
And I've already read a lot of it a few days ago, and so it's just the opening salvo from his team.
Right.
You know, saying we're suing you because of all these things.
Okay.
I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what kind of strength his suit has, but it does seem
he may have a leg to stand on.
He may. I mean,
and I don't know if it's Gen Con specific. I think it's Gen Con, but Peter Atkinson is part of the suit too. So it's not just I think because he was there and maybe he said some stuff about, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe, I hear a lot of folks talk about it. Zach's kind of a creepazoid, a bully, a kind of a jerk. I don't know, but I mean, that's not a reason to say, I don't know. You do you, but thing. Bad choice. You have the right to do it.
This could be karma.
Yep.
Because what comes around goes around.
Yep.
However, me being a bit of a dickhead, there's no law against that.
Nope.
But there's laws against publicly defaming somebody and then causing damage to that person.
Correct. That could be a problem.
So, and then there's the other side of this is it doesn't necessarily, even if technically they did break the law, they still have to convince. I don't know if this goes to a jury or if it's just a judge's determination.
Probably a judge. I'd be shocked if it was a jury, but maybe.
Yeah, I think juries are for criminal trials. I don't think they're
mostly. I think mostly.
So they have to find a judge that's willing to grant them some damages in this case.
Well,
and that's iffy. It's iffy.
Yeah. Well, here's a question I have though. Do you know, like we have cabin con? That's not really a con. We can fully invite and disinvite who we want, and nobody can say anything
for whatever reason.
If you run a big event like Gen Con, which is a publicly held event, if there are tickets available and someone wants to buy one, I guess you can. I mean, it's their place. Can you say, I won't sell this to you for any reason?
And then let's say you've bought it, and then they, for some reason, say, we don't like you no more.
Right.
And then you can't go. They pretty much have to refund.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's 100%. But can they, as a business, say, we don't let Zach Smith come to our Gen Con, even though someone could look back a few years and go, look, he did come. So, but that's okay.
I think they probably can.
Okay.
This
will be interesting if this goes anywhere.
I'm not a lawyer, like I said.
Me neither.
But I think that, let's say, I think one of the parts of his suit is that there's an expectation, a built-in expectation of business, being able to do business.
As a person with product to sell at Gen Con, you may be stopping me in some fashion, but just because I have product, I don't have to, like if I own a store, I don't have to let Joe sell his RPG products at my store.
Right. So not only, that's one thing for them to not have him at Gen Con. The other thing is poisoning the industry kind of.
That's
as a result of all of the social media stuff, and as a result of that, other business opportunities were lost. He had like several things he was involved in, and that one by one they all kind of went.
I don't know the dollar amount, but I'll just say a few thousand. This sounds like something that gets settled for thousands of dollars outside of court to me, because it sounds like trouble from both sides.
Right.
Maybe a little tricky on one side, and Gen Con may have a little blame, and Zach may have a little blame, and Gen Con may just say, "Hey, why don't we drop this crap? Here's $10,000 or whatever they're going to give you."
Yeah. And Zach might gamble a bit.
Yep.
And refuse to settle out of court.
True. He may want to drag him through the mud.
Right.
I don't know this dude, so who knows?
Who knows? Because thousands.
Maybe.
We're probably talking many
tens of thousands. Oh, maybe 100.
Because he lost.
Oh, plus damages.
Yeah. And he could probably say pain and suffering and other things and court costs and stuff.
I think Tenkar or Bad Mike might have said, I think now that I'm saying that, I think I might have heard them say it might be a 6-figure settlement.
I would think so.
Look at how they did Hickman and Weiss, Gale Force 9. That's WotC. This is Gen Con, but still, Gen Con's pretty big. It's pretty big deal.
It's messy.
It is.
And that's not. It's messy because of the culture.
Yeah.
And people can't just people don't have a spine. It's sickening sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's not sickening is the D&D Survivalist Guide coming out. I was really pleased to see an old guard, Douglas Niles, involved
baby.
in a current project.
It's basically the 5e version of the Dungeoneer Survival Guide, which was not my favorite book.
No.
Nor the Wilderness Survival Guide.
I remember when you bought that because I didn't have any money, and
I'm sure mine was probably birthday presents, dude.
Yeah, your mom bought it for you.
Yeah, I'm sure she did.
I thought it was really boring. I mean,
dude, weeks, not good at all.
Not precisely boring. It was kind of interesting, but they didn't have a lot of game. Oh no, this is what it was. You read this and you're like, they're making all this stuff to kill us.
Yeah, even as a DM who loves to kill players, I truly do love to see players suffer hideously. It was just like, this is just more. It was the first time I heard when back in the day when they used to mine deep in the earth, they would take canaries down in a cage in case there was gases that would kill them that they couldn't smell. And I'm like, so I'm supposed to make all these natural hazards. Trust me, I've got hook horrors, I've got mind flayers. Dude, I got some dragons. Players don't need to be worried about gas. I got a whole lot worse than that.
I think there were even rules for your food to spoil underground.
Yeah, I know. And I'm kind of wondering.
Bad. All of it was bad. None of it was any good.
And this is the dude that wrote it. And I'm probably going to kick this. I don't think he's doing this all by himself, though, right? He's just joined a group of people. I believe so.
Oh, most likely. I'm sure he didn't. That was something they did in the old days. One person being the writer.
No, I'm saying right now, this new one, I think he's just part of it.
That's what I'm saying. It was back in the old days when you had one person's name on a book. You don't have that anymore. You have like 15 or 20.
But that video on the Kickstarter was really pushing my nostalgia buttons. I love that black and white art deep in the dungeons and all the stalagmites and stalagmites and pools and stalactites and all this cool stuff and dark rituals of drow elves. I mean, that's cool.
Right. That's all good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I've kicked it, but I may unkick it. I'm not sure yet. I may just go for it because I love to give the old card a little nod.
Right.
When I can.
I guess you can get it for as little as $19.
PDF.
For the PDF. For the PDFs, there's multiple.
Yeah, I'm getting. I did the 39 one, which I think is the highest backer level. Nothing too fancy on there. Did you see a bigger one?
None of it is expensive. Usually, you think about a Kickstarter, you're like $300 or something to get.
Well, yeah, like Deadlands, which should be coming soon. They said the dice have hit the port and they've got them packed up and they're sending them off.
Well, that's your fault for getting the full Monty. I just got the book, the main book.
Yes, you're very smart. Now shut up.
That's a movie reference.
That is, baby. You got that. I know you did. We both love Princess Bride for the win.
I'm looking to see who else may be involved in the.
They asked me, but I said no. I didn't really like the original book, so I wouldn't be involved in it.
That's how they find people for these books.
Yeah, they call players. They said, let's see, Randy Nichols on some list here from Gen Con 1991.
You call old players that nobody knows from Adam.
Adam Coble.
Huh?
Adam Coble, the Dungeon World guy.
Oh yeah.
No, they wouldn't know me from Adam, so I'd be good. No, they wouldn't. They don't know me from Adam. They might cancel me. That would be sad. I would be canceled, having never got started.
Here we go. So Douglas Niles, he gets top billing.
Mm-hmm. Stephen
Yardley, written for Adventure Week Games and other things.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Philo Graff, never heard of this guy.
Nope.
His other he goes by In Zeitgeist.
Oh, is he the one? That's a Ian. Wasn't there like an adventure path by an In Zeitgeist something?
I think so. He's billed as a polyglot.
Whoa, that's someone that speaks all languages, right?
No. Yeah. That's probably a bit of a
speaks many languages, probably.
Polyglot role-playing game nerd of the highest order.
Okay, good for him.
They're probably taking some literary license.
I'm probably going to do it because I'm feeling the old school. And our game, whenever we get playing it, getting out of Savage Worlds, we get tired of Savage Worlds, we're back to D&D, our version of D&D, where there's castles and crusades or not Warhammer, but Hackmaster or original OD&D or whatever it is. I'm probably going to go to some of that, low level. You got to think hard when you go down to a dungeon. And I don't know if I want to try to kill you with invisible, tasteless, odorless gas dissolves instantly in liquid. That's another Princess Bride.
These other guys, I've heard of In Zeitgeist, but the other folks, there's
that's okay.
5 guys involved in it.
Douglas Niles is on. I'm probably going to stick with it. It's only $39. I don't care.
Yeah.
So Joe's going to read it and go, "Oh my God, you're going to kill me." I'm like, "Well, you knew that already."
Well, this seems different.
It does.
It's a different sort of book from the last one.
Yeah, it's not going to be company, man. It's going to be rebellious. It's third party, baby, fighting the power.
Momentum engine.
Okay. Are they messing? Well, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
So
check it out, folks. It could be good.
Yeah. So this week we have two main topics
It's a
instead
twofer.
of one. It's a twofer.
Yeah.
The first one is going to be about player agency, which
Yeah.
is a modern topic.
Yeah. And
We
it's,
we old folks cringe when we hear modern
we
words
do, but I think there's,
sometimes.
yeah, modern words bother us, but I think there's some points to this. So I picked out two definitions, Joseph. First one, I just pulled off a Wikipedia page, or no, I think I got it off the RPG Stack Exchange. One of them, maybe they both came from that. Player agency is one of those terms like RPGs and replayability that is tough to define. Player agency, the player's ability to impact the story through the game design or through gameplay. Definition two. This is someone on RPG Stack Exchange, their opinion, which I thought was still pretty good. Has three components. One, the player has control over their own character's decisions. Two, those decisions have consequences within the game world. And three, the player has enough information to anticipate what those consequences might be before making them. And I also quoted a angry. I'm kind of digging the angry GM articles
Yeah, yeah, me too.
about stealing
It's a good one.
agency, and it
Yeah.
was pretty good. So anyway, how much is this necessary, dude? You're a player most of the time. You got to have the freedom to make decisions for your character, right?
I like to be led around like a fish on a fish hook the whole
Yeah.
time.
Oh, okay.
I don't really care about decisions at all.
So
I let
I really
you.
shouldn't even say go left or
No,
right.
I let you tell me everything.
Oh yeah, well that was cool. So yeah, player agency is a waste of time, folks.
Waste of time. It's my yeah. I have spoken. No, I think that agency. I've heard some people go a little off the deep end about agency.
Angry's article hits those.
Yeah. However, I really liked his article on player agency. Pretty much, it comes down to, and it's something that I guess I don't know if it's technically that I harp on it, but when you play with your pals,
yep,
it's generally not an issue.
Well, okay, you say that.
Generally,
right.
But the thing is, we if one of your friends is well known for not caring about agency in the slightest, they have a story to tell, you're just a part of it, then you going in, when you sign up for one of his games, you know this. So I have decided to roll with it because that's
you're not going to have a choice.
Right.
Well, I thought Angry made some pretty good cases of when you abuse agency, but I think there are times like what's the first case? Let's think about this. So the DM says, all right, so you come into town and you go to the Ogre's Tooth Tavern and you meet Madgar, the great wizard. He tells you you're going to go and quest for the staff. So you go gather your belongings, which is the gear that you have, and you head out to the old mine. And there you are in front of the mine. What do? I mean, that's how and a lot of old modules went like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
and we never complained.
Nope.
No, we really never complained.
We got that and we liked it.
And a lot of times, okay, it was kind of 50-50, if I remember correctly, when we would say, we're kind of just right there. And last time I was supposed to, go to the an outfitter and get some stuff.
And usually I would say, okay, just buy it. We'll say
buy it. Yeah.
Because we want to get to the actual adventure.
Right. So
yeah.
Right. So very rarely did, honestly, when we were coming up in the game, town adventures we thought were for girls.
Yeah. And not like the female girls, but like the pussbag girls.
Right. You want to go to town for what? There's nothing in town for you. There's NPCs.
GURLS, girls.
Right. And who cares about NPCs?
Right.
They're there to give us stuff. And that's
right.
It.
And so, yeah, and send us on quest. Thanks, we're going to get it. We come back, you're paying us, right? We keep all the stuff, right? Okay, good.
Right.
And so, but I think in a convention game, that kind of beginning, I would have zero problem with. Zero.
Right.
We got 3 hours, dude. We got 4 hours. Let's get to it. Now in a campaign, that would feel a little pushy.
Would.
Especially if it wasn't the first adventure. It was like, dude, I'm 4th level. We got to town. I want to check some stuff. I know this town. I don't want to head to the Ogre's Tooth. I don't even like that tavern. I'm going to go get my holy symbol shined up at the church. I'm going to pay my tithes, and I'm going to pray to my God for a day because I'm a paladin, and that's how I roll. You know,
Right.
And it's like that would be better, and would be a drawback. He mentioned 2 things, and this is where I think a player can expect too much agency, where they get to, like, for example, one of the things they mentioned, I don't know if it was, no, I was reading, which Joe doesn't read the thread below the article because he's
above the comments.
He's above the comments, but there was a good one about a guy who got really upset because one of the characters in the party got dominated by a mind flayer vampire in a fight, and though his character didn't die, this female barbarian pretty much really wrecked her own party, and she kind of took glee in doing it. And she, like, the DM said, "Hey, you're trying to control them." Vampire says, "Hey, you need to kill them." And she's like, "Sweet, all right, power attack against the rogue," you know. And I'm like, that's how it worked. And don't get your panties in a bunch. Good job. I say good on her. And to me, get over yourself. And apparently this guy got so mad, he almost quit the group, even though his character didn't die, even though nobody died. He was so mad. We lost agency, and we didn't get to make decisions, and that better never happen to me. And even angry was like, well, if a player doesn't want to be dominated, you know what? Here's what I would say to a player like that: you're not welcome at my table.
Right.
You can't be a pansy like that.
No.
I'm not gonna hold your hand. I don't care if you don't want to be dominated. I'm not gonna try to, but if it works out that way, and you're alone with Strahd, or you're next to Strahd, guess what he's doing?
You're either going to get dominated, or you're going to get the blood sucked out of your body.
So, dude, I mean, and you can cry all you want. I don't care.
Right.
Because I don't care if the players, and if they're that soft, I don't want them at my table.
Right.
I don't.
Right.
And some folks would say that's, abusing agency. I'm like, whatever. Or getting turned into a werewolf. That's another one that bugs me. It's part of the game, people.
Right.
Okay. Get over yourself. Oh, I can't do anything. Well, you're right. You're going to battle lycanthropy. And guess what? You're a paladin at night. Whenever he turns into that horrible beast when the full moon, he does horrible things. Now, I wouldn't go so far as to say, ooh, you lose your paladinhood, but I would say that you would feel, as a paladin, you would actually sense the displeasure of your god, not so much that he's not going to give you powers, but he's going to push you to find out what's going on and fix yourself.
Right. So, speaking of module that would never get produced these days, Slave Lords of the Undercity series.
Yep.
So in it, you get Shanghaied, term you're not supposed to use these days.
Is that cultural appropriation?
Oh, it's probably insensitivity of some sort.
Okay, so you get Shanghaied. Just make sure it's clear. To make it clear, we're Shanghaied. So that's how it starts.
Shanghaied. And which, for a lot of players like me, I hate.
Yep, it's understandable.
So you get kidnapped, all your stuff is gone.
And aren't you like 5th or 6th level or 7th level? You're not low level.
I don't know how. I'm not sure what the level
ranges Joe.
Are.
You continue. I'm going to look this up because I could have sworn.
It happens they have 3 modules, and I think you get.
Yeah.
I think the expectation is you get captured all 3 times to start the module off.
Now, didn't you play that back in the day?
Yes. Now,
character levels 4 to 7.
Right. So you're not first level. So.
No.
So. I've never read the module, so I'm not sure what's supposed to happen when you get kidnapped the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But we enjoyed a very long sea voyage being
slaves,
prisoners.
Oh, prisoners.
And rowing. I think we were rowing. I can't remember.
Okay.
And so I
never owned that one. Oh, I might have owned it. I might have owned the super module and sold it.
Right. I don't know that we'd ever done that.
I never ran it.
So, so we were prisoners rowing. I was trying to escape.
Mm-hmm.
And the DM was trying to get across to me, don't try to escape. And I'm like, why? Why shouldn't I
Why?
try? Why shouldn't I kill the captain and try to take the boat over?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I do
100%.
that?
Right.
So now, well, because this is the reason why you don't do that, because there's the rest of the adventure happens once you get taken to their island or whatever. And I was like, and it could have been me just being stubborn, and that's why the whole
No.
boat thing was played out for a long time. That might have been my fault. It's possible, but
I think you would do that.
but the same DM decided that he liked the Sword of Truth series.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that series?
Yes, I've heard of it. I know very little about it.
Okay, so in this, it's a fantasy series, and in this series, the main character gets kidnapped and is held and tortured and made essentially a sex slave to this woman. And these women, there's a group of them. They're all, I can't remember the name of their cabal, but they were all trained by the ultimate bad guy of this, of at least the beginning, few books. Eventually, he meets up with this guy and kills him or whatever.
Sure.
But they've all been trained. They're all damaged people.
Right.
And this guy is a sex slave to this woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's a magical bond. And he must do what she says, or he feels pain. She doesn't have to do hardly anything.
Okay.
For him to feel pain.
All right. So she's got something on him.
Right. So as part of the what he did, our DM, he added that loveliness to the Slave Lords series.
Oh, boo.
So we were all held and tortured and made sex slaves. And now we have this magical tattoo. And sometime in the future, if you meet these women again, they will have total, complete control of you. You have to do what they say.
That is definitely a horrible case of ruining player agency.
Right. So he thought it was awesome because he likes the books. And I'm like, well, sometimes certain story tropes are good in certain media.
Yep.
And they don't translate well to a game environment.
Kind of like Wolverine and yellow spandex would not translate well to the movies.
Right.
It's fine in a 4-color comic book. It's not so great on the big screen.
So
give me the black leather Wolverine.
So, I mean, he wasn't really trying to be a dick. He was just very fond of that series.
He thought it was I mean, that sounds innocent enough. Honestly, I could see in this day and age, people would see that as like, ooh, super creepy. But he's trying to go that route. It's like a book. The sex slave stuff I'd keep out of it. To be honest with you, Joe, that's one thing. I don't remember the time I did it. I tried this, probably based on some module. I tried the whole knock the players out, and I did that one time, very heavy-handed to you guys early on. We were playing, and you guys were so upset. Everybody playing just thought that was such a big cheese ball move that I ended up just stopping that. I mean, I just let you guys get away easy and got your crap back, and nothing was, no problem. And I thought about that. If you notice, I don't do that very much. And maybe, now I do think maybe, now tell me if you'd have a problem with this. I'd be interested to know. You get into a fight and the bad guys are winning, dropping you guys left and right. And then they knock you to 0 hit points. And I say, the last hit, subdual, down you go. Then you become a slave rather than kill you. Would that bother you?
Not necessarily. It depends.
I'm saying the fight is relatively fair. You guys are rolling like poop. I'm rolling really good. Bam, bam. Your wizard got a sweet spell to stop the half tiefling, the tiefling warlock, and you get knocked out by a sneak attack. I crit it. Down goes your wizard. 0 hit points. Oh crap. And then the fighter, I roll, a couple of orcs, I go crit, take the fighter down. Wizard casts charm person. He knocks everybody out. Then he's under his charm. And so he ends up taking all your, stuff and putting you as his slaves, or putting you in prison even. It doesn't have to be slavery.
Just put you in prison. Prisoners.
Captured instead of being killed. Would you prefer me kill you in all cases, or could you live with that? Or would you even like that if you had a favorite character, maybe a character you really liked?
Well,
I mean, assuming you
all
have an opportunity to
depends.
get away.
Right. So I know that you would be doing that in order to preserve the party so
Right.
that they could escape,
Correct.
if not altogether, one at a time or whatever, and figure out a way for everybody to live.
But you also know I'm not promising you're getting your gear back.
Right.
I would not hand it to you. It wouldn't be sitting in some room unguarded.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's dumb, actually. That's a dumb way to do things.
Right. So unguarded, definitely not. However,
Guarded, maybe.
guarded.
Or used. I mean,
Right.
wouldn't you guys would split it up and use it when you guys beat somebody.
Correct. So, and that would really stink.
Sure it would. But you know what? That motivates you to get back and kick their butts.
Yeah. The thing is, depending on what they got away with and what game system it is.
Sure.
Pathfinder.
Yeah.
If you had a whole truckload of stuff ganked like that, the possibility that you could escape is one thing.
Right.
But to go back and defeat them, folks who already beat you once, and now they have your stuff as well.
That'd be tough.
It would be difficult. Yeah.
But I think
however, it would be stupid probably for that group to try to just, call them out and say, let's do this again. You got our stuff. We don't have anything.
It'd have to be a different strategy. And right. So my question is, though.
But it would be fine. It would be fine.
Okay. Yeah.
I could be fine with that. And yeah, I would be fine with that.
I would not do the sex slave thing, but I wouldn't be opposed to, if you have a really dumb fighter and the bad guy's a powerful wizard and they dominate you like an old school domination for months, you become their minion until the rest of the players figure out how to save you.
Sure.
I don't think that's harsh, but I'm not saying I wouldn't do it, especially to a player especially in Pathfinder, if someone's like, dude, I'm going 4 intelligence, I'd be like, okay.
Well, okay. So,
I mean, I'm going 4 intelligence because she's my strength.
Because guess what the PCs do with a Pathfinder wizard character?
Yes.
They get magic jar and they gank they gank all the bad guys.
Yeah.
And they make them beat each other up.
Look, I'm a wizard inside a stone giant's body. I had that happen.
Yeah. So, you got to expect a little bit of that to come back.
Yep.
And if you as the DM let the PCs off easy by never, ever charming, dominating. What about power word kill? What about disintegrate? There's so many things, because when you get disintegrated, I'm not sure what the current disintegrate rules are, but the old disintegrate rules, you and all your stuff are now a pile of dust if you under the right circumstances.
Yes, indeed.
So
Tell your save,
it's
all gone. You're nothing.
Right.
I tell you, that's the ultimate removal of agency.
Yeah. So if you're battling a powerful spellcaster or wielder of magic, and part of their magic is dominating, then, and especially if you know it as a group, and you're just kind of gritting your teeth, hoping you as a DM don't do it. I mean, it's there. There's so many, especially in AD&D and later editions after second, Pathfinder, a lot of games they have. Even what's it called? Savage Worlds. They have really easy. I mean, when they have a dominant, it's puppet, right?
Puppet. It's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not just, I'm kind of your friend, but I really don't want to kill those guys over there.
You're on strings, dude.
Yeah,
you do what I say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And here's the thing, though. So here's a good question. So with agency, I'm trying to think what other things Angry had said in the article about some examples of taking away a player agency. There's the obvious when you force them down, go left, go right. You have to go to the tavern. That's kind of really heavy-handed. That's super railroady player agency screwage. Then there's the domination and the charm, which can get out of hand. And every creature you run into is a sloth that implants an egg inside of you, or is a werewolf that turns you into a lycanthrope. I think when those things are overdone, it can be, yeah, what are you doing? You're just trying to screw me? Every time we turn around, someone's dominating my dumb fighter. What limitations? When does a DM know he's gone too far?
Oh, when the table's been turned over and he's got a black eye.
Represent. Knights of the dinner table.
Knights of the dinner table. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
What are the limits?
I think it's going to be hard to tell until you make a false move and your players say, "Hey, dude."
Yeah.
But
it's got to be more than one player.
Yeah.
If one dude's crying and everybody else is kind of like, that was a fair play.
Yeah.
That's kind of on them.
Right.
And the DM, I think the DM, I really don't look for opportunities to take your agency away. I don't. I do look when you choose to do something for the consequences, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
This is natural. Now, here's an interesting question. So if, oh, dang, it just left my mind. So, shoot.
Oh, well, you think about that.
Yeah.
When you think about what the players are doing within the scope of an adventure and the types of enemies they have, and you opposing those people, or maybe you're just doing a hex crawl or a dungeon crawl, and you come across a creature that can do that stuff. What if there's a random monster roll and it's an Illithid?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you could all be puppets real quick.
Yeah. Or if it's old school, an older version of D&D, and you have psionics, you can. You're in big trouble. The rest of them are kind of in trouble. You are in real big trouble.
Well, they're in trouble because he'll mind blast them, which will stun them for 3d4 rounds.
Right.
Then he'll just eat your brain.
Eat your brain.
After he turns it to mush.
Right.
With psionics. Yeah, that's true.
Right.
I was dang on. I can't think. I'm trying to.
That's the kind of natural. That's the kind of. Don't want to say it's a fantasy game. Natural's kind of weird, but that's the closest terminology we have. Mm-hmm. The natural consequences of you engaging in the world that has dangerous opponents. They can do bad things to you, and one of those bad things is dominating you.
Yeah.
What if they don't dominate you? What if they turn you into a little puppy dog?
Yeah, polymorph.
Yeah, they just polymorph you. I haven't dominated you. You're just a little puppy dog.
Okay, I remembered. Good for the goose is good for the gander.
That's what I was just saying, yeah.
This is an issue. So this happened in 3.x. There's spells, we have mentioned this before. Mordenkainen's Disjunction.
Yeah.
That is the bane of all high-level characters, or actually any character with a decent magic item. He does not want to face that. However, and honestly, that spell, in fact, players probably don't want to use either because they don't want to destroy the gear of the creature they're trying to defeat.
Right. And they don't, and they also don't want to trigger you into using it.
True. Right. And players use Geekus. Players use Magic Jar. Players use Disintegrate. And I have no problem with those, but you don't get to run that way for free. I mean, you do that all the time. Okay. You're telling me that's a good strategy. You're about to run into a character who's higher level than you, or a monster that's more powerful than you. You know, you're 8th level, but he's a 20 hit dice beast. Guess what? If you've thought of it, he's thought of it too. And look, he has it on his list.
Right. Look, he has Magic Jar. You walk into a tavern and you randomly roll one of the characters and they've been Magic Jarred. You take them to the side and you say, look, you are no longer you.
Yep.
Sorry about your luck.
And I would be inclined to let the player play it. I'd be inclined to let the player keep doing this thing.
Yeah, if they were wanting to do that. Yeah. And you kind of, it would be weird if in our group, you probably wouldn't have a problem with that.
No.
But in a bunch of, you may have somebody who is like, I'm not going to play that.
Right. And
then you have to play that as the DM. And then it becomes obvious. So
yeah.
So the player could easily just ruin your whole party because as the DM, you were planning on
Surprise, gotcha.
Yeah, surprise gotcha, and the player won't. I mean, you'd have to. For some people, you might have to sweeten it a little bit somehow. I don't know how you do that.
Well, you know what you could do if it's a smart little wizardy or magic user type thing, a powerful arcane creature. You just let the player keep playing his character, and then when you go to sleep, wake up and do some evil.
Right.
And the player never. I mean, I'm 22.
That's how you would do it. Yeah.
I'm a 22nd level arc lich of super intelligence. Yeah, you do you, baby. You got. Oh yeah, go beat that demon. You're so awesome. Oh, you got to sleep. Oh, that's fun time. Wakey, wakey. Yeah, that would be the way to do it.
Yeah, you have to be sneaky.
Maybe super sneaky, but that'd be good. But some players would get pissed about that. But I mean, no, I don't think many.
You know what? You could really screw the entire party because you could actually jump from player to player like that.
Yes, good.
Now, I don't know. I can't remember how it works, but this is actually probably a design problem with a lot of the domination type spells. Is none of them. It's rare for them to be mentioned whether or not the victim of those things remembers anything.
Right.
So if you don't remember, if that was part of it, then you could have if you were a really vindictive, evil overlord, you could get each one of the player characters in trouble by having them do things, and then they don't know that they've done them.
No.
And nobody else in the party has seen them do it, or maybe they have. What is Bob doing? Oh, he just murdered the bartender.
Right. And they go, oh my gosh. And the next night, the high priest got killed. Why is the paladin's cloak there?
Yeah.
It's Fred the paladin. He murdered the high priest.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, all kinds of craziness. You'd be like, what is going on?
Right. And it's just a 5th level spell.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta go with the dogs. Give me a second. Shall we go?
Yeah. So, I think a DM can go too far.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if there aren't consequences, if there aren't natural consequences as a result of playing in a dangerous world, then what are you really doing?
Yeah, and even though you can make a good, I mean, on a side note, sort of it connected, I had sent a message to Eric Tinkar today about, he mentioned something about how Gygax's interpretation of low, medium, and high level being 9 to 12. And, you and I like really high level play too, well beyond that. I wonder if maybe a lot of OSR folks like to play lower level. They avoid some of this stuff.
Sure.
I mean, if you end at 10th level, Magic Jar, you barely get to it.
Yeah.
And a wizard may never take that. But having said that, I do wonder what other things take away. What other things can you do to take away player agency? So you can throw them in a prison. You can be super railroady hardcore, which most people aren't like that anymore. Well, I won't say that. We're not like that. Do the domination thing.
Yeah.
What are some other examples where you think player agency could be taken away and it would really suck, not be a cool thing for a DM or another player? Maybe can another player take agency from another player? Maybe doing like, what if you're like the type of player that's always telling someone how to play? Don't do that. This is the optimal thing. No, you need to power attack in this situation. Oh, whatever you do, don't cast haste. You want to cast lightning bolt here.
Well, certainly it can be annoying, but I don't know if that's taking away agency.
Only if you let them.
Not, yeah. So it's not taking anything. It's just if you capitulate and do what they say, then they're kind of like running the whole show, or they could be, depending on how many other players they're ordering about. So I don't know. I mean, dominating isn't just the one spell. So you can
charm, suggest.
Yeah, there's a bunch of related types of effects that can do the same thing. What about
polymorph other?
Yeah, polymorph. Confusion,
polymorph other. Yeah.
With confusion, you can't do what you want to do.
Correct. I mean, are there players that get mad if they get confusion cast on them? I guess maybe that'd be weird.
Maybe it would.
That'd be really weird.
I know it stinks to go around the table a few times when you're in a combat situation and not be able to do anything.
Yeah.
But
it's part of the game, man.
It is part of the game. The risk of having agency taken away exists when in that aspect, as long as the DM isn't heavy-handed about it and just or being the railroad conductor, and you're sometimes facing opponents that can do these things, and it's just it just happens over the course of play. And I mean, you could say at the end of your scenario where everybody's captured, you could say, okay, where do we want to go with this? Do you guys want to try to escape, or do we want to call it and just roll up new characters? Because it's not much different from a TPK if everybody was like, well, it's going to be really hard to get our stuff back. I kind of wanted a different character anyway. I guess we'll just make them new characters.
Do something new. Yeah. What about this? This is one that was in one of the comments, I think. What if you have a DM that says, okay, you're playing Rothgar the Holy, Paladin of cool awesomeness, and you come upon a guy who just swindled you, and you go, you're under arrest, and he pulls out a dagger and he goes, I don't think so, and it's gleaming with poison. I strike him down and kill him, and you do. You kill him, or you're getting ready to strike him down and kill him. And now he pulls his dagger out and he goes, if you don't leave me alone, I'll stab you. And you go, haha, whatever. And the DM says, oh, you would never do that. Your co would never allow that as a paladin. Or, the classic, here's some baby goblins. You would never kill babies.
Right.
And my point is, the DM is basically saying, this is how your character would act. Because of your faith, you can't do that.
It's one thing, and anger brings this up. It's one thing to say, this is what a lawful good character would do. So you feel compelled in a particular direction, but you still allow the player to do whatever they're going to do.
Right.
And you as DM either lay the hammer down and take away the paladin hood, or perhaps they have to atone, or you say, well, good play because I was bluffing, or something like that.
Right, exactly. It was, yeah, that's true. I think that's the right decision. I think you can be definitely heavy-handed about it, and it would definitely be taking player agency. I think
But
that's
I
true.
know people have done that.
Oh yeah, I think
I do that. Your paladin doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Or whatever the situation. It
Yeah.
could be any kind of thing.
Well,
Your character would not do that.
Especially, and then you get into there's a big argument too. What is lawful good? That's what's going to happen next. When you use alignments, well, why is that not lawful and good? He broke the law. He's got poison that's against the law. He's threatening me. I need to strike him down because he's danger to the public.
Right.
You can make arguments, sure, we can do rationalizations. Yeah. Yeah. So
I think it's all that kind of stuff. I think anger probably brings this up. A lot of these kinds of arguments can be nipped at the bud early on by, as a group, you talk about things.
Right.
And when you play a paladin in a group, I mean, we in our gaming group, we've been playing together for years and years.
Right.
And many paladins have been played. We've explored all these things a lot. And there's no real mysteries as far as that goes.
No.
So there's not, as far as how we roll with all that. So that alleviates a lot of those problems. Now there might be situations where we haven't covered, and they would be pretty quickly resolved, I think. So length of play, trust between the players, how good of friends you guys are, how much you let things slide, all those things can come into play with that kind of situation. So it's, it's a game.
Yeah.
So the thing you brought up earlier where the guy almost quit the group because the other player took unholy delight in being controlled and all that stuff.
Right.
I mean, that should just bring a laugh to everybody.
It really should.
Yeah.
We're gonna get beat down by our own barbarian.
And honestly, in any group where there's a barbarian and then there's a spellcaster in the enemy side, that's the first thing that comes to my head. Oh crap.
Yeah, they're gonna dominate. They're gonna dominate this dude, and we're gonna be screwed.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm not worried about the fighter. The fighter can hold his own, but I'm a squishy rogue, or I'm a third level wizard. I don't want that dude to turn around and hit me with his great axe.
You guys, as much as Butch has been played, that has never been done with Butch.
Well, but to be fair, you were careful with Butch for the most part. First of all, a couple things. You've made some phenomenal saving throws in key moments.
Right.
The Banshee event, which we all talk about, legendary in hushed tones. You made a save that you had to get an 18 or higher on, and you got an 18.
Yes.
And then you've worked on your saving throws. You've manipulated him where he is not as easy to dominate as the average 13th level fighter. No,
but now that he's a fifth edition,
he's screwed.
He's lost everything that he could possibly have.
And here's the thing: if I run an adventure for him, I won't necessarily go after him that way, but I'll end up getting him.
Sure.
Because just by default, I'll be like, "What's the DC?" I'm like, 19. You'll be like, "Oh God." What? 15. You're like, 15. Oh no. Oh
you
no.
Have a first level wizard with charm person. And I'm going to love that guy or girl or whatever.
Yeah, because you just don't want him.
It won't matter.
Yeah, you're going to be his buddy. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about player agency?
No, I think we're good.
Cool. Well,
agency's cool. Don't overdo it, DMs, and just have fun at the table.
Yeah, don't be heavy-handed, and let things happen. You do what you want at your table. If you don't ever want to capture your players, you don't ever want to dominate your players, that's okay. To me, that affects the verisimilitude. So now maybe you have a world where those kind of things don't happen. Okay, take all those spells out. See how it works. I don't know. Bennies, the next topic. We got a twofer tonight. Bennies, hero points, and all that jazz. So we're talking about games like even Fate points in Fate, which is a game that shall not be named yet. I'm naming it. I do not like Fate. Bennies and Savage Worlds, hero points, and Arcana Evolved, and very Eberron action points and Eberron games.
Pathfinder had a version of it as an option.
They did. All these things are like tokens or resources you get, you can keep track of, that allow you to get little special bonuses, maybe a re-roll, maybe an extra die on damage, maybe a static modifier. or one that's going to be a big discussion point in my mind is narrative control, because that's something we've been experimenting with, both good and bad, in our groups for about 2 years now.
Yeah,
So,
it'll tie into
no
the
more
Beat
than
This
that.
game. It'll tie in some with Beat This Game.
Yes, it will. So, big picture, what do you think of them? In the games that you play, when they have them, or when you're playing a game that doesn't have them, as a separate rules addendum, do you like the idea of that? Do you
I like
that
the
resource?
idea because, in a way, I have. So over the course of a few decades of play, you look back and you're like, I've had all kinds of crap happen because of a dumb roll. Not necessarily because I've made a bad plan or made a bad decision or anything like that. It's just you
rolled a 2.
Yeah,
that sucked.
It sucked. So from that point of view, hero points, or whatever you want to call them, they look attractive because you can mitigate some of it. It's usually not an unlimited supply.
No.
So
most games are not unlimited.
Right. Because you roll so many times, you don't want to use them all up in your first encounter. You probably want to reserve some of them if there's more than one. So they're, from that point of view, they're good. But at the same time, here lately, the last few months, when I think about them, I also think that they might be a little bit. They might, for some games.
Are you referencing our current game with Savage Worlds?
No.
Okay.
So not specifically.
Yeah. Okay.
But I can see where they could be a problem because in 13th Age, which has a version of them, they're having narrative control and not just like a re-roll or a bonus to roll or whatever can cause issues with the wrong kind of group composition of players, not the characters, but the players.
Players with a purpose in mind to win the scene.
Yeah,
they're always trying to win it, not make the narrative interesting or even slightly. I'll get down the narrative.
The thing is that hero points are for helping you succeed.
Correct. So
generally speaking,
so we should talk about this. So these are for, like, if you fail a die roll, if you have role playing disadvantages, if you're trying to perform a heroic deed. I remember that, and I feel like that was Arcana Evolved, maybe, where you got these hero points for trying to do something truly heroic. But on some games, it's based on your level, some formula. Some games, it's based on just play at the table, like Savage Worlds, where you can earn them as you play. Yeah. Inspiration in 5e is one of those type of things.
Right. And generally speaking, they seem to have, it's a catch-all. It's not just heroic play.
Right.
In fact, I think that language is kind of falling out of favor, and it's more a generalized thing instead of.
I really want to charm the barkeep.
Right.
I really want to. I want to do it again.
You even see language in some of these rules where it's like, you brought cookies to the game.
Yep.
So that's a way for you to earn a hero point.
Dude, in Savage Worlds, you make the DM laugh or the table laugh.
Right.
I remember early on, that was even in Deadlands. If you say something funny, you get a chip. And I do that sometimes, but more I think about it, I think I'm going to slow that down, because I feel like I'm giving too many bennies away. But
I think
maybe not.
They can be overused.
Yeah.
That's a drawback we can get to at some point. But I think I understand the draw, and I kind of like them. Part of me likes them, but right now I'm not sure. Part of me is like, they might make for a softer game,
especially with all the re-rolls. But even worse, let's talk about it. But you started going down that path of narrative control. That's an element that's brought into the new Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. They brought that in as an option. When you spend a Benny, you can have some narrative control. Those Savage Worlds definitely implies that it's pretty mild. In 13th Age, which we'll talk about more later, they give you, I feel like you have a lot of, I don't want to say carte blanche, but a lot of players, I guess it's because I'm a DM, and this is not, and I know how things should be. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I want players to use them for not massive advantages. When it's a massive advantage, you take away the challenge of the game. It should be minor advantage.
Well,
you know? Personally, I think that.
In 13th Age, what's the thing called? Is it called a Benny in 13th Age, or
relationship points?
That's the relationship point. So that's different. For Savage World, it's called,
and you have to roll a 5 or 6 on a d6 to even get one.
Right. So in Savage World, it's called a Benny, as in a benefit. So it's supposed to be positive. So it's supposed to help you.
Correct. And let's not forget, in Savage Worlds, that's also the thing that saves your bacon if you get wounded. If you use all your bennies to do narrative control and re-rolls, and you have nothing left when you take 2 wounds, guess what? You've taken 2 wounds.
You're going to have to eat that.
And 2 wounds sucks.
Yeah.
You're practically useless.
As long as you don't have, and especially when you're starting out, you're not going to have a lot of the edges that let you act in spite of those. But yeah,
and even later on at high level, you're 2 wounds away from rolling on the incapacitation table and dying.
See, narrative control is okay if the player does it with some judiciousness. If they instead of trying to take the reins of control from the DM, they add something interesting, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Something cool or interesting or minor. I don't think it should be something that is broad in scope or changes something significant about the world. It's supposed to be for an in the moment thing anyway. So it should be of limited scope.
You're deep in the bowels of the underworld, and you're going along, and you come to this massive cavern. Tharzanon's cavern. I mean, Tharzanon's, what's it called? Not cavern, but chasm. Tharzanon's chasm. You've heard of this. It's massive. It separates this side to the Drowish land beyond. And there is no known means to cross it. No one knows how the mysterious Drow get across, probably through magic. And you got a Benny. Boop. There happens to be a bridge there. Or I know how he does it, which may not be bad, but I would say, boom. I notice there are a few vines hanging from the ceiling, and they're silvery, as if some drow recently have left them there. And you're like, oh, so the players can get across this time.
Right.
You can't take it with you, and they're stuck. And so as a player, it helps you do this once. It's kind of cool, but you can't rely on it, and it doesn't fully destroy the coolness of Tharzanon's chasm. It just says, we're going to get past it this time, probably, unless, the DM has a few, I don't know, piercers, or maybe they're wrapped around a piercer in the ceiling, and when you yank, they fall.
Or the silvery ropes are Illithid's tentacles.
Yeah, some horrid creature, or worse than that, some giant monstrous
upside down roper.
Illithid aberration beast roper. Yeah, oh yeah, your strength is gone, and you get sucked up and you're dead. But yeah, so I mean, I think it's cool when it helps the story seem neat, not when it like, oh, look, we get a free bypass, no challenge.
Right.
Or, oh, look, everything's great. The dragon's dead. We get his treasure. Now, I would never let that happen. But some players will try to make it a win button. And that's not really the intention, I don't think.
No. A lot of this stuff is table dependent.
Yeah.
Because, I mean...
narrative control especially. It's hard to even define.
Right, because... remember early play for us when we hardly read the books, and once we read the books, we were, that's the way it works. That's totally shocking.
Yeah, we've never done that, and sometimes we're like, we should do that, and sometimes we're like, that's dumb. We like the way we're doing it.
Right, and which is the appropriate way to go.
It is the appropriate way to go.
So
it's fun.
A lot of this stuff varies so hugely because everybody has their own idea of how things should work. So that's one reason why these rules are a lot of times are a little vague. but it's a kind of a double-edged sword. It's vague.
And they come from story games. The narrative control does. I would say even the Bennies are a little story game where you get to change your fate a little more.
Yeah. And, I don't mind having the narrative control thing, but to be honest, a good group at the table, you don't need a mechanic. I know that me and you have talked across the table and come up with cool stuff without the need for Bennies. Even in spite of playing with a game with Bennies, we've done it. Oh, maybe I should have had you spend a Benny on that. Oh, well, I guess we'll just go with it.
Yeah. And I've seen, like, Butch is low level and he's in a fight in a bar, and this guy's a big half ogre and he's kicking the poop. He's in fisticuff. He's in a fist fight with this guy. But this dude ain't playing. You're down to one hit point. He's not trying to knock you out. He's trying to kill you. Like Randy, he knocks me over the bar. Don't I find a club back there that the barkeep keeps? I'm like, yeah, you do. That's cool. Because you're like, dude, you're about ready to die here. Right. And it's kind of cool. And why do you need a chip for that? But you can't. That's a trust thing. And it's not just pals. I got plenty of pals that honestly, I can't trust to do simple things like that. And I don't know if it's because they don't have the capacity to think, oh, that sounds harsh. I don't mean that. They don't think at that level. They only think at victory or loss. They don't think of something that will help me, that can just turn the tide. I mean, getting that club with one hit point's not necessarily going to save Butch's bacon. But instead of doing a D2 plus 4, he's now doing a D1 to 2 plus 4. Now he's doing a D6 plus 4. Oh yeah, he's actually specialized because he's a warrior in all single-handed weapons. So now he's doing D6 plus 8. This half ogre's in trouble. He's about to get his job.
Or maybe one of two things. Butch could say he jumps up with that club and somehow intimidates the ogre into leaving.
Yeah.
Or No, Butch doesn't find a club. He finds a trap door and runs away.
well, the point, whatever. I mean, something that's cool. And I think
there's all kinds of ways to use those kinds of things that aren't the win button, because running away isn't winning.
No, it's not
any stretch. It's living.
Not getting, living to fight another day.
Right.
And that makes a good story, but there's always, I reach over. He does have a +5 Vorpal, doesn't he? Oh, yeah, he does. There you go. Butch, he lops the half ogre's head off.
Yes, he does. You pick it up, but you, instead of picking it by the handle, you pick it up by the blade, and now your hand's cut off. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Well played, sir. Yeah. Do you think it's good in all games? Of course, I'm going to say no, because I think even some games that use them may not be good if your design of your story is, say, darker and grittier.
Right.
And you want life to be cheap.
Well, like I was saying earlier, I think they do lend to a softer game.
Yes.
You have a softer landing.
Well,
you have, in a game that doesn't have them, you rely on the dice, and you rely on your plans, and you rely on your party members, and you can't rely on some mechanic to get save your bacon.
And you snuck up behind the Illithid. You have the dagger of Illithid slaying. Roll it, Butch. I rolled a 1. Oh, bad for you. You actually stumble over a rock, fall forward, miss. He sonic blast you. I mean, crap.
And now Butch is dead.
And he eats your brain. So
no, he doesn't.
No, it's not it's too small. It's barely a snack. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we might have hit all the questions.
Yeah. I mean, Bennies are fine, but I think that now that we've used several different games that have the kind of mechanic in it, I think that my after action report on playing in these games is that it's a softer game, and it might be a lesser experience than, in some respects, than in playing a little more dangerous game for your character, like earlier versions of D&D, where you didn't have that kind of mechanic.
Yeah, there was no backup plan.
No safety net. And that's the kind of thing it's kind of a safety net kind of thing.
And really, when you think about it, here's an interesting question. Really, with how most games today are made, heavy advantage of the players. And I know this sounds bad. I know you don't want players to die all the time, but if you want to if you want to play a game in a dangerous world, fighting monsters is dangerous, even if you're tough characters. don't Bennies, um, I don't know, they just take away from, I mean, how many times in a session is your character really in trouble in the average session?
Oh boy, that's hard to
That's hard to say. Okay, just me as a DM, you played with me. Every session, how many times do you feel like, crap, I could die? Do you think once a session? Once every two sessions?
Probably once or twice a session.
Okay,
It
fair enough.
depends. It depends on the system, really.
Yeah, but if I'm running D&D and I'm in my standard mode,
Every time I roll initiative, I'm in danger. Honestly,
okay,
because I don't know.
I don't pull punches. Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah, you never know. It could be a CR appropriate encounter.
You don't believe that's against your religion.
It actually is. I have to add 5 to all encounters.
Yeah.
5 CRs above. Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. I think we knocked that poop out.
Yeah. So at Cabin Con,
yes,
player agency. I'm not sure if we've talked about that as an issue or if it's come up a whole lot.
No, I don't think we have. I was just wondering, since it's kind of a convention style play, I feel like I take agency away just from the sense that I put you into an environment. Like, think we've talked about that cool science fiction game we had last year. I had you in space exploring, doing your thing. It wasn't, do you want to do this? It's, you guys have agreed to this. The pay is remember the pay was like triple because it was dangerous. Right, and you're out in space, and here and on your sensors comes up the ship you're looking for.
Well, there's no other way of doing that.
Right.
Not really. A convention style play, you have to in media res that a lot. Otherwise, you're just wasting. At time. Cabin Con, we could dispense with that and do a lot of RP to bring you into the fold, right? To bring you up to the point of adventure, because it's a free form gaming weekend.
Yeah.
But a lot of times our sessions in that are more convention style, wherein we just jump into it.
Yeah.
You can't. You have to. If you have a limited amount of time to play, you have to just jump into it.
Yeah, and with the weekend, we do. Well, there's so many guys. We're going to be at the neighborhood of over 18 for sure, maybe 22 this year.
Right. You can't mess around.
You can't mess around. So, you got to get right to it. Do you think? Of course, you have a scenario that's about role play, but then that's not messing around. If your scenario is about politics and debating and trying to figure out the best course of action, then when you decide, it's one. We got to decide how we're going to attack this keep, and then once you decide, you got to make a significant plan. A big significant part of the game could be strategizing.
Mm-hmm.
And making deals, like in a Game of Thrones scenario. That's what I think Larry had us do that one year. It was really cool. The fight was cool, but it was one fight, but most of it was making deals and plans and making sure things happen the way they should happen,
right.
Which they didn't, because people in Game of Thrones like to screw you.
Right.
But anyway, so that can be part of the game, and that's fine. But yeah, I think a lot of times you have to do that. Do you think, I didn't write this down, but do you think bringing Bennies and stuff, especially into one-shot games, is a good idea? I feel like sometimes in one-shot games, a small amount of Bennies could be useful, and that would let me as a DM be a little more evil.
It would be interesting to do that, especially with a system that doesn't already have them.
Yes,
if the system that you're using at Cabin Con or in a convention already has them, then it's a moot point. But if they don't, you could say, all right, this is one shot. We're gonna start you at the mouth of the cavern, and you have some hero points to use. Let's go.
I did something, and this is not really Cabin Con related, but directly. I've talked about that Greyhawk campaign I ran a couple years ago with Philip, my wife, and our friends Amy and Trent. And I used Bennies like in Savage Worlds. And I said, for 5e, and I threw away inspiration. And Bennies would allow you to re-roll. But if you chose a re-roll, and your Benny can give you a re-roll on a d20, or it could give you a narrative control. If you took narrative control, that was fine. if you took a Benny, if you did a reroll for something, then I got one. I got a Benny, and I got to use it for my bad guys.
Right.
And that was kind of interesting, but I did feel like, and even Philip agreed with me, that it was a little bit too powerful because rerolls are not really necessary in 5e because it's kind of, I thought it was fairly, I think 5e is kind of a soft game.
It's a soft game. It is.
That doesn't make it bad. It's just soft.
It is soft.
So, yeah.
So it will make it bad to some people who don't like soft games.
Right. True. Yeah.
Which I'm getting to be.
Yeah, I know. I'm hearing that you want the Randy almost of the high school years.
A little bit. a little bit of the old Randy flavored in with the new.
Right. Just bring it, make like tough, but give us cool stuff and let us do wicked things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling that too. I think that's the draw of old school. I don't think it's going to be the mechanics. I think when we jump into Castles and Crusades and play some Swords and Wizardry, I think we're going to be like, mechanics are not terribly exciting, but we're going to love the feel of the danger. So that might be an interesting, change.
It may be. My thinking along those lines is similar. I think that mechanics-wise, I understand. I think I understand part of the draw for a lot of people to old school.
Yeah.
The low rule, the small rule set.
Yeah.
Yet the rulings, not rules mantra means they get to make up rules ad hoc. It means to me with some people, they don't merely like a light rule set.
No.
They want a skeleton rule set that they can add to.
That's wide open.
Fit.
There's
so they
room.
may not like just simple. They just want something light that they can add their own touch to.
And I could see why 3E turns them off. They're like, oh, we gotta grapple. Here's how I think grapple works. And some player goes, nope, this is how grapple works according to the book. I'm gonna try to disarm. Oh, I think you got about a 20% chance. Nope, this is how disarm works.
Right.
There's a rule for every situation when you don't want that. Maybe as a GM and players, you don't want all that.
People aren't satisfied with the answer that I will say in that there is the tinkering aspect that has always been with RPGs. If you don't like the rule, do something different.
Correct.
So they would rather there not be the rule in the first place.
Right.
But
let me wing it.
Yeah. So the fact that there's not a rule, the fact that there is a rule, either way, if you're going to do what you want to do, whether it's there or not,
right,
is irrelevant.
Right.
It should be.
And but to their credit, then they go back to what they already know. Right. A lot of the OSR folks are very comfortable with OD&D and 1E and 2E. And I can't blame them. It's what you're comfortable with. When I look back now on first edition and second edition, the way I played it was a lot less rules than what I've been playing most of my life now. I mean, it was a very small set of things, but to be fair, I think the reason it looks small is because I had so much crap memorized, especially with monsters. Right. I knew all about a lot of monsters. I studied those books,
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, okay.
We're going to talk about 13th Age in our Beat This Game segment.
Yeah.
We're still experimenting with this as opposed to having a game design segment. And this week we're talking about 13th Age. Mm-hmm. We have played a lot of 13th Age.
A lot. 4 or 5 years.
So pros and cons. You I think, have more play time under your belt than I do.
Almost completely as a dungeon master, a game master. Yeah. But yes, I do. And I think there are lots of pros. The first thing as a DM, super easy prep. Monsters are set in not just the CR issue, which we can get back in, but you can pick a packaged monster and he will play pretty much how you want him to. Every once in a while, you got to watch some abilities that can be problematic, but I don't usually care. Yeah, well, they can be scary. You roll a crit here, a monster does a certain attack and he gets a crit. An owlbear can take your arm and eat it. He can run off and eat it. So
you have no more arm.
Yeah, I like the high fantasy of it. The books are well written. They're engaging to read. What's really engaging is they got their lore, but all their lore is usually given in the Archmage is known to study demons, And some say it's because he's a demon himself. Others say he's an angelic creature. Others say he's a crazy wizard, and one day he hopes to create a demon army. It's up to you. I love that in their books. They don't tell you their lore. Every time they give you a piece of lore, it seems like they give you a couple of options of why it's true.
Right. And that's a good design.
Yeah, it encourages the mystery of the world. They have a lot of over-the-top stuff. They have these creatures that are actually bigger than the Terras called Koru behemoths that walk this path around the Dragon Empire every so often. And they are like there are civilizations of people that live on their backs. They have villages on their backs. And so it's so super fantasy, which would be stupid if the game wasn't fun. It's 10 levels. You could run a campaign easily 1 to 10. I have no doubt that if I was really pumped about 13th Age, I could go 1 to 10, probably, if not in a year, I think in a year. And you really could. You could. I know I've gone
do it in under a year, probably.
For sure, if you're dedicated and get a couple of 6-7 hour sessions in, along with 4 or 5 hour sessions.
Yeah,
I think mechanics are close to basic D&D. That's fun. I do like how I think all the characters have something special to offer. The fighter is really cool to play. He's not just swing my sword guy. The wizard's got some cool stuff. Who's different than the sorcerer? Who's different than the cleric? I don't think any class sucks.
No,
and the bard's fun, and the bard is
closest is maybe the ranger.
He's just boring,
yeah,
but he doesn't suck.
No.
You can play a ranger. He may not be exciting. He will be effective.
Right.
Our buddy Dave's wife, she plays a ranger, and I'm telling you, in our campaign we played, her ranger was boss, bombing from long range. I do think it's got a lot of fun story game stuff into it. They got the relationship points, which is like the Bennies, where it connects you to the power players in the kingdom, that lets you do some things like you can use a relationship point if you, and to get these points, you got to roll 5 or 6 on a D6. So I like that a lot too, but it's 2-edged. I'll talk about the cons in a minute, but that's the things I really like. The flavor, character classes are fun. And I think the game is really pretty easy to jump into.
Right. Yeah. I agree with all that. The character classes are all distinct from each other.
Absolutely.
Is a definite pro. I think there are some things that are pros and cons at the same time. 10 levels is a pro.
Yep.
That is kind of a con at the same time to me. We'll talk about that.
Because at 10th level, you are a boss, though.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you're throwing meteor swarms. You're big time.
So your character starts out being somebody.
Yes.
You're not just some nobody farmer with an extra hit die or whatever.
It is not 0 to hero.
No.
It is, I'm somebody to be reckoned with right now. I'm the hero of my village.
Right. So yeah, it's fast because to make character yes. creation is pretty fast. That's a pro. And yeah, I think everything you were talking about already, I agree.
Escalation die. What do you think of that? That's pretty cool. That's pretty unique.
It's unique. And it's fun, but it's a double edge.
Well, let's talk about the good aspect. Here's what the escalation die is, folks. So you put a D6 out. I have a big honking one about probably 6-8 inches on the side. And at the first round of combat, it's not there. Second round of combat, a 1 comes out. All the players get +1 to their attacks. Generally, the monsters don't. Some monsters can feed off of it. Very few, like dragons can. Feed off it means they get the +1 too. A few monsters can affect the die, turn it back, move it forward. Some player actions can. Every round after this first one, it goes 1, then 2, so that it increases. So by round 4, everybody's at +3 to hit. And what it does is it encourages you to save your best attacks for later, because you're going to have a big old +4 or +5, and you know you're going to hit.
Yeah, and then some character abilities play off of what number is up on the die.
Yep. So, I love the cyclic spells are really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Barbarian Rage.
Yes.
So
yeah, that can be cool.
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting mechanic.
What about cons, Joe? Oh, I know you're kind of.
So cons for me are, I like the 10 levels, but I hate the 10 levels.
Yep.
So I guess the way it was described in when it was a new game, the more established D20 games at the time had 20 levels, and a lot of the levels were quote unquote dead levels. You didn't get a whole
Right.
lot out of them. So they compressed your character into 10 levels of advancement instead of 20. No dead levels. Every level is significant, and that's the way they did that.
You can a first and second level character is different.
Yeah.
A second and third level character is different.
Right.
I think you're hard pressed to play with much more than a 1 level gap. I mean, you could not have third level characters rolling with the 6th level characters.
No, that would be a really bad idea.
Yeah.
So it makes for really rapid campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know one of the bad things about our modern life is it's full of busyness, and it's hard to get in a regular long-term set game that lasts several hours instead of 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So it lends well to that.
It really does. And quick play. And I think it's also, I'm going pros again, because I do love this game. I got some cons though. I think you can roll up 7th level characters, which by the way are more like 14th level characters in D&D, and pretty quickly, and be able to use them without too much headache. Now, you pull a 14th level Pathfinder character out, players are spending hours on those.
Yeah. Make a 14th level character in 13th age doesn't take hardly any more time than a first level one.
And if you don't give them magic items, which you don't have to, they're very effective on their own.
Yeah.
You're ready to roll quick.
Even if you do, there's so few of them, it's easy, especially if you just go with the core book, it'd be easy to pick out 7 magic items.
Easy. Correct. Easy, because you're kind of capped. I think the game has the problem of a little too much. The relationship points are a 2-edged sword. A lot of the things are where they let you take a little narrative control. So if you get a 5, what happens? You get I give a different colored chip. So you get a 5 and they're all connected to these power players in the realm, say the Archmage. That means you can use that to get a benefit in the game, some advantage, but there's also a cost to that advantage. If you get a 6, I call it all blue skies, because you get everything good. It's only an advantage, no drawback. And while that can be cool, it can be crazy if every player at the table, you can have anywhere between 2 and 3 of these usually to start with. If everybody has 2 6s and they're constantly changing the story by using these relationship points to get advantages, and they're all playing them on top of each other, it gets real crazy. Though our friend Dave has made a good point that you should not be able to play. We don't usually allow anymore more than one of those relationship points to be played at a time, because you can't counterman what somebody else did or dog pile. We've had dog pile issues which suck. Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing though. There's been sessions where I didn't use my bennies.
Yes.
Because not bennies, whatever. I didn't use my relationship dice because everybody had a 5 or a 6. They were getting thrown all over the place.
Yep.
And I didn't need to.
Yeah, because the game,
like, okay.
And I think of all the games I've played, it seems I think a game, if a game is weighted for the players a little bit, I don't mind. I don't mind if it's a little bit. I think it's weighted heavily to the
very
players.
heavily.
That's one of the drawbacks.
The escalation die.
The Bennies.
The
relationship points.
Relationship points and the escalation die really work together that way.
And I had a group of players on the last campaign I ran, was about 3rd to 6th level. I ran a version of Shards of the Broken Sky, which is available for purchase from Pelgrane Press, who makes this game, which I would recommend. It's an excellent sandbox type campaign. But I had a group, just because of the choice of player character races and classes they made, they had all these reroll abilities. And I think, can't you use your benefits for rerolls too? Is that true?
I can't remember.
No, I don't think you can. I used to allow it. It got too good. But this group was just like, I do this. I can reroll. I can help him reroll again. You would roll a die, and you get 3 rolls to try to be successful. Wow. And you already have a good chance because you're made to succeed. and it got kind of ridiculous. And to the point to where as a DM, usually I'd be like, how does that work? Are you sure? I just said, I trust. And it's great because honestly, I trusted all the guys and none of them were trying to cheat. It was Philip, it was Larry, it was Dave. They knew what they were doing. And I said, just spend your stuff, use your powers, and they would just re-roll like crazy. But that was kind of the composition of a very unique group.
Right.
We had a commander, we had an occultist, some of the stranger types, and it was kind of funny. We laughed about it because of like, this is the group of infinite re-rolls. I mean, I can never be sure if a roll counted or not until they got done. So I eventually was like, okay, is anybody doing a re-roll? Oh, we can't this time.
Okay. What would be cool is if that was a long-standing, well, with 13th Age, no, there aren't any long-standing anything because it's very fast play. Mm-hmm. But in a sustained campaign with a group like that, you could make it seem like they were breaking the fabric of reality, and wherever they went, you didn't have to be significant. It'd be just weird things. Oh, you see a puddle of water, it's flowing up and set it down like you would expect. It'd be cool to do something like that because what they are kind of messing with the fabric of reality,
which is what the occultist does.
Yeah,
that's what it was. Jeff's occultist. That's literally how they're described. They change probabilities, and what's funny, they encourage you to only allow one occultist in a group. I don't think it's for a balance because you are the occultist.
Yeah. That's the title.
In the campaign, you're the occultist. You're the weirdo of the group. And Jeff played it, and it's really interesting. And we had a great time. I fully loved it. I didn't get to the full end because of Pandemicville. And but having said that, I do find that some of the mechanics get a little tiresome. I think the campaigns, we've talked about it before. The adventure sessions tend to be the main 3 to 5 encounters, and that's it. It's not that you don't role play, but really you don't have, they don't really have the game is not built for random encounters, or at least they say it's not. Our friend Dave would argue it's not at all. I would just say just do it if you want to, and it might make it better because the way the powers renew and stuff, and that's wonky too. Their daily is not daily. God, that drives me crazy.
No, you like it.
No, but it drives me crazy as a word they define.
The way, it's very.
I like it because I have complete power. I have all control when you get your
dailies back. No, we don't ask Randy because Randy will always say, do we get our daily powers back? No,
not yet. It's not the appropriate time yet.
It's not the next session yet.
But if you do 4 encounters a session, it's really not the right time.
Right.
That's all you shouldn't get your meteor swarm back after 2 encounters. I don't care if you have a super deluxe Randy special triple threat encounter. I don't know. You've always maintained you could do dailies as true dailies. Sleep 8 hours, you get your powers back. And you just have to ramp things up.
I think that the way they've built that into the system, I don't like that it's called, like you, I don't like that it's called.
I hate the terminology.
But what else are you going to call it?
Yeah, you get
occasional.
They call it a full heal up. And you don't get a full heal up until it's narratively appropriate. And that sounds good. And even as a DM, you say I like it. I kind of do, but I find it frustrating because, my natural inclination is, of course, to say no to players because I'm a dick like that. But honestly, truthfully, it's not. It's like, well, it seems too powerful. I'll give it back to him now. This is only the second encounter of the day. And it seems too powerful. The second encounter of the adventure. It may not be a day because it could be a full week before you get your full heal up. Right. And players can, enforce full heal ups if they really want one, but they take a campaign loss. I think some of the rules are so fuzzy that it just feels.
It's a little. It's high. The word I want to use is contrived.
Yes.
I don't know if that's appropriate.
It may not be. And I don't mean to be pooping on this game. Dude, I would play. If someone say, hey, Randy, you want to play a 13th Age game tomorrow? I'll be like, I'm off. I'm there. Yeah. I'm there, dude. I love it. Have a good time.
I think it's not my favorite. The flavor of the game is really cool. Some of the rules are kind of weird. Like, and some other things like, while the classes are all distinct, there's not a lot of variance within a class. Like if you're a wizard, you're a wizard.
Yep.
Everybody knows what you can do. You always do the same thing all the time.
Yep. You can pick
a few exceptions,
And you have
Druids are
access.
Druids
Yeah,
have
3
some
versions.
customizability, but that's an exception to the general 13th age classes are what they are. There's not really much difference.
You make your class unique, slightly at lower by your race, your choice of talents, how you advance, and talents can affect, or feats can affect spells, and your choice of spells. There is some variety, but
It's minor.
yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of everybody wants color spray, dude. It's cyclical on every even round. You can cast it for free and get it back when it's supposed to be a day. Excuse me, a daily. So I mean, it gets a little. I think the game's predictable in many places,
Predictable.
especially in the combat. You know, when escalation gets 4 or 5. Sorry about your monsters.
But predictability is good for some people. I think
It
it's a
is.
little.
It is.
It makes a soft game. So
It's a great con game. Quick to whip one up and play.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Uh,
That having said all the cons, I think I can't help but put it in the extra large slot.
Wow, that's even higher than I was going to go large, but yeah, I love it. Yeah, I would play it anytime. So yeah, I could probably. I don't know. Yeah, I probably would.
With how you word it.
Yeah, I guess I would have to say extra large. It's somewhere between large and extra large. Like it, happy to play a full blown campaign, but not the best. Love it. One of my favorites.
Large, extra large.
Yeah, somewhere in between those two. I think that's true.
A little bit.
Yeah, it used to be extra large with a bullet. I mean, at one time I thought it was my new game. I thought this is the one I'm playing, and then it started getting a little old and long in the tooth, even though it's not a very old game. It's a good game. It's worth the money. Even the core book alone, you'll get a buttload of play out of it if you like that. Some good indie elements, some good story game elements with lots of D20, enough D20 crunch to keep me happy.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. Yeah. Do we have anything else to say about 13th Age?
Anybody likes fantasy, I would at least buy it to read it.
Sure thing. I know they have kind of an SRD type thing out there.
Yeah, the Archmage engine. You can check it out online. You'll see a lot of the rules there.
Yeah, Archmage engine. I probably should put that in the show notes.
You should.
So people can. Okay, I should, but nobody goes to the website.
That's because we have a website that's not got one person who's done something on it like you, and the most talented person of the pair has not yet graced.
I have a couple articles there, but actually every week we put something up with the podcast. So
true. I need to do something.
Being me.
Right. I need to post on that dang thing. You gave me I got basically the rights to post on it, so I should do it because I got opinions. Yeah. I'm full of it. I mean, I'm full of opinions.
Right. All right. Well, if that's all we got for today.
I think so, bud.
All right. Well, if you'd like to support our show, please check it out. Check it out. Our website out, please. Go there. If you don't go there, you suck. www.biggestgeekuspodcast.com/support if you want to support us. If not, you can nix the support part and just look around. I have there's a few articles up there you can comment on or not.
Yes.
At our support page, any contribution is appreciated, and we thank you for your consideration. Please, the primary thing we'd like you to do is share our podcast with your friends.
Yes. Your friends need to become our friends.
Yes, we need to assimilate you all. If you somehow are listening to this podcast on an app that you don't like, that you would like our podcast to be on, let us know.
But I would love to know how you're doing that, first of all. Yeah. That would be magic.
Well, I have 2 or 3 podcast apps on my phone.
No. You said if you're listening to a podcast on an app that our podcast is not on.
Okay, what I meant to say is if you're listening to an app,
because that's cool.
You would rather it be on your primary podcast.
Correct.
Yes.
Joe will make it happen.
I can make it happen.
He's cool like that.
All things. If you have any questions, and if you have that podcast app that we don't support currently, you can send it to questions at biggestgeekuspodcast.com, and feel free to send any questions or comments to us, especially comments that include money.
Oh, I love those comments. And also, don't be afraid to use Anchor, man. Jump on Anchor, send us a voice message. We love playing it. Jason at Nerds Variety does a lot of those. We really appreciate it. And good old John Allen drops us a line every now and again. So that's cool.
All right. And speaking of those guys, we encourage you to listen to a few podcasts out there, primarily ours, but here's a couple that you can listen to on your own time. Red Dice Diaries with John Allen Large and his wife Hannah, and each of these are going to be linked in the podcast notes.
Oh, and John and Hannah, we are going to probably sort of steal your idea a little bit. You should tell them that.
Yes, we're going to rename our podcast and call it Green Dice Journal.
We are, and we're going to do some monster stuff. We're going to call it a monster. We're going to try to be a little different, but no promises, because you guys do a good job, and we're copying. That's a compliment.
Yes. Yeah, that's what that is. Also, we like to listen to Glenn Hallstrom over at at Radio Grognard.
Go, Glenn.
Go, Glenn. Daily. He does a daily.
He does.
Taylor Manicore is a different kind of podcast. It's a dramatic play.
Are you caught up?
Actual play.
Are you caught up?
No.
Dude, it's gotten pretty cool. You need to
Okay.
get through it. Episode 30, 31. They're pretty neat.
Also Tavern Chat with Eric Tenkar.
Yep.
We get a lot of I get a lot of fodder for our podcast from there.
Eric's got his finger on the pulse, man.
Yeah. And then again, Jason, who frequently gives us lots of messages, almost probably last time it was like 13.
I love it. Keep doing it. I want to go for 16 this time.
Over at Nerds RPG Variety Cast. With all that said, this is Joe.
And I'm Randy.
And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us. So we're going to start the rant proper.
Right.
I had been listening to podcasts, and whenever I go too far into some, it seems like the whole woke thing starts coming up again.
Drive you up a wall.
It's really, delete expletive, annoying. It's annoying, especially when you're like, when you least expect it, it rears its ugly head, and ugly it is to me. And primarily, people feel like they need to insert an interpretation of reality, of history, that the woke crowd has invented out of whole cloth. And it's like a lens they look through.
Yes, everything.
Yeah.
At everything they see. Yep.
Yes. So they have a lens in front of their eyes and I think I don't like attacking the people. I'd rather attack the ideas.
Yes.
And because I just think it's better.
Perfect example is this Perfect RPG thing. So this Luke Crane dude, who is apparently like a VP at Kickstarter, starts this RPG product that's going to have multiple people contributing. And this Adam Coble, one of the creators of Dungeon World, apparently in his Far Verona online live play, what's it called? Not live play, actual play podcast. He has this dude basically sexually assault this female character's male-like character robot by messing with something in the back of their neck, something. In the sense they sexually assault them in the sense that they make them have a robogasm is what they called it. Did you saw this, right?
Yeah. It reminded me of Data.
So this a long way around to get to what you're saying, looking through the lens. So here, look, I do think that's creepy and that's gross. And I would say, look, DM, we've talked about sexual stuff off the side, and that's even more, that's worse than sexual stuff. That's like out of the blue. And I get why they could have been creeped out a little. But the thing that bothers me is, they're venturing down this path anyway, because those people weren't upset until it got right near questionable territory.
Of their own questionable territory.
Correct. Their own personal issues. And then I think when you mess around with stuff like sexuality and sex and romance, I mean, too far in a game, it just gets creepy. And I think that's a problem, a fundamental problem. I don't think that's what the game is for personally. I don't get it. And if you do go down that road, where do they draw the line? And how does that Coble guy know where the line is? I mean, he may not know, even though I would say that's pretty obvious, but I would bring up the bat like, dude, we're not doing sex crap. Don't even bring that crap. Don't bring it. It ain't happening.
All right. So yeah. And when I saw that, cause I heard the hubbub, because I don't watch actual plays because they're
Me
boring.
neither. I've never seen one that wasn't.
Yeah. And so, I watched it and I thought it was creepy, but I really didn't think it was as big a deal as some people made it out to be. I don't necessarily think he deserved to lose his way to make money necessarily.
Yeah. I mean,
but that's cancel culture.
Yeah.
And apparently, from what I've heard recently, he's been perfectly fine with canceling other people.
Yeah. So maybe he's goes around, comes around.
The situation kind of reminded me a little bit of Data. There were a couple of episodes, maybe in the movies, definitely in one of the I think it was in Contact, where they had him. That's when the Borg went back in time. And all that. So they eventually captured him, and the Borg Queen had him strapped down and had a piece of regular tissue on his arm. And then she goes up to it all sultry like and blows on it, and it gives him goose pimples.
Okay.
And he goes,
right.
So I know that there had to have been at least one other scene involving Data and his various weird chips of one way or another.
Yeah.
And
didn't he have something with Tasha Yar?
But they had sex. But
you're saying non-consensual stuff.
Right. So they had Data strapped down.
Gotcha.
Right. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. And, I don't remember.
And then he faked out being on their team. So because Data was always very cool.
Right.
Anyway, so to me, I didn't really think that was as huge a deal. It seemed like it was blowing up everywhere. How dare he? How dare he? Blah, 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 blah. And it was creepy for sure.
Well, and I think...
And he crossed a line for sure.
I think so, yeah.
But like we do. We don't do that. We fade to black in all of that.
Right.
Right. There might be some high, level description. You guys do this or you guys don't do this.
Yeah. You run upstairs with her. You two have a good time. It's morning.
And if someone was going to do something, if an NPC was going to do something inappropriate, you would say you would describe that he was doing something inappropriate with you.
And I just don't think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have.
It wouldn't be as descriptive.
I wouldn't even have a sexualist. I just personally wouldn't have any NPC. I mean, I would never feel the need to even mention an NPC that does that. That he's a rapist or a sexual assault dude or whatever, or a female. Either way, I don't even want to think about that. That's just not my thing. Or doing something to a kid. I mean, it's just not. I'm not going to do it. And to me, it has no place at the table. It's about adventure.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
And I get the vile thing, but even remember the Book of Vile Darkness?
Yeah.
As much as I thought there was some cool mechanics in there, that was a pretty creepy book.
It was very creepy, and everybody was so into it.
Yeah, no. I liked Vile Damage, but I like anything that hurts PCs. But damage-wise, but not the other stuff. It's just really gross and showing pictures of one of the demons, a daughter like hanging all over her father who's a demon, which I get that demons would probably do crap like that, but I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it.
Definitely don't want to have art in your book about it.
I definitely don't want to play it at my table. I'm just not interested.
No.
And at the same time, would I have bad guys enslaving people? Sure. But that's something you can fight. I mean, that's something you can literally see. That sleaziness that they're talking about usually happens, like even in that scene, behind closed doors. It happens when a good predator doesn't do that stuff in the open. Right. I'm of two minds with the Adam Coble guy. I mean, he sounds like, in some ways, he got what he deserved in some ways, but it seems a little overblown. People lost their mind on that perfect RPG thing. Oh my God, he's on here. Okay, we're all going to quit. Of course you are. And you know what? They have the right to do that. It just seems. I
Well,
don't know.
did you listen? Well, Tenkar made it seem like he whether it happened or not this way, I'm not sure.
Hmm.
But from what he seems to have known, he was brought in last, and
Oh,
nobody knew he was part of the project.
almost like that Crane dude was trying to sneak him in.
Sneak him in. Now, whether or not he was doing that on purpose for some weird reason,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know. It just seems weird. Plus, the dude. Oh, we'll talk about that in the segment. But
No.
yeah. Um, but we have gotten way far beyond wagging our fingers at people for, because as a conservative, we kind of look down on cancel culture in general.
Yes.
Um, if you don't want their product, don't buy their product.
Right.
You don't want to watch the thing, you don't watch it. That's what I do.
Right.
I don't call for boycotts or for people to lose their job or anything like that. But
No.
we're so far beyond that now.
I
It's
mean,
to be expected.
I might personally boycott.
Yeah,
You know,
I will.
I mean,
like I quit Netflix because of that cuties thing.
I don't buy Paizo or Watsy stuff.
Right, the same
Not first,
thing.
not firsthand. I just won't because I don't agree with all their woke stuff. But
Right.
I'm not telling them they shouldn't be able to make their stuff. Make all the crap you want.
Yeah.
If you have an audience, do it. Don't be a fool. That's just like
Right.
that Zach Smith dude. I mean, I remember way back in the day, I'd heard about him and Mandy something or other, his wife girlfriend thing that he has supposedly abused, but in court that was never proven.
Right.
In fact, I think it was said it couldn't be proven, so he was let off. And now they're like trying to keep him out of Gen Con, and I'm sorry, that's not right.
Right. Right.
You have it's just your feeling. You have a gut feeling. Oh, he's a bad dude. And I know Tinkar says he's an a-hole. And I believe Tinkar probably is. The dude was a weirdo. He was into creepy sexual stuff. Well, sure. But that doesn't mean he can't go to Gen Con. I mean, I've been to Gen Con, dude. There's some creepy sexual stuff going on.
Right. Right. There's lots of that.
Yeah.
You get to see some of the pictures. You're like, why are these mostly naked people walking around?
Oh, dude,
Kids?
it's pretty
It's
crazy.
stupid.
Yeah, and then they act like they're better than them. And I read an article. Well, Tinkar's Bad Mike had mentioned in their podcast last week that Peter Atkinson was known for throwing some pretty wild parties at Wizards of the Coast, and exactly what you're thinking, sex stuff. And I got to looking. There's a couple articles online about it.
Oh,
He
wow.
was pretty free love guy, and so that's pot calling kettle black. I mean, I don't care for anything Lamentations of the Flame Princess. I don't care for any of their crap because I don't like all that over the top, sexualized, creepy, dark crap stuff. But apparently, like even Tinkar says, Zach Smith's a good writer. I mean, if you as an adventure writer, supposedly he's pretty good. I don't know. I won't buy his stuff because it's creepy stuff. But I mean, it might be
He's
well
made
written.
a lot of money. He's made a name for himself in multiple industries.
Yep.
Or sub industries within gaming. I think there's some video game stuff that he's done and all this, but his an accusation against him has led to his losing a lot of his income. And I don't agree with his lifestyle from what I can tell of it, but I'm not going to say he deserves to not have an income.
Yeah, and it's like, and people can say, I'm not buying, like me, I'm not buying this crap because I don't like the way he writes and what he's got, but I think he should be able to make it. And I'm not going to go, oh, you can't publish under that. You do whatever you want, dude.
Now
it's buy it, sell it.
Right. So if, and the real problem with cancel culture isn't necessarily cancel culture.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is depending on others for your livelihood.
Right.
So, and maybe not directly from a customer point of view, but from a platform point of view. Mm-hmm. And if you have to depend on a platform to show your wares, and then now that you can't show your wares, you can't have any income, that's a strategy problem that you've created for yourself. And it's you can't blame them too much because most people in the industry have a platform of some kind that they rely on.
Yeah.
And so that's just the name of the game. But in our current climate of canceling everybody for everything you can think of, the smart money is to have your own, if you can. And he wasn't in the poorhouse.
No.
He's in lots of projects. Now
From what
he's
I heard,
had
from what I've heard, he's from a wealthy family.
right. So, and it's not all that expensive to be an independent producer of RPG type paraphernalia of one kind or
Right.
another. It's not.
And you know, there's people that will buy his stuff. I
Right.
guarantee it.
Right. So if he was smart, he would just do his own thing.
Yeah. And yeah, I would think so and just forget about it. But I also think, I mean, I kind of don't blame him for blasting, for going after Gen Con, keeping him out because he's not been convicted of anything. Right. You let him in before, he was welcome before doing the same crap, you know, and now that he got, it's just like when I taught high school, dude, I'm telling you, just the hint of impropriety with a student could be your career.
Right.
And I find it terribly frustrating. Not that I was ever in danger of that, but I was like, that's ridiculous. Having said that, there's also the other side too. In some school districts, the teachers that actually do that just get moved to another district and let them continue on.
It's a popular tactic for industries to do. They move their problem people around instead of, you know, it's one thing to stand behind your, if you've been accused of something, you said, I didn't do that. Your employer saying, okay, I believe you.
Until you're exonerated.
Or no, I believe you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stand behind you until you're taken to court and then proven guilty. Right. And if you are proven guilty, then you're out.
And if exonerated, you still stand by me and say, shut up. Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so didn't do what you said he did. Right. You need to get over yourself and quit acting like, because you think I believe a student or always believe a woman or always believe this. I'm not down with always believe anything.
But we're beyond that.
Oh, we are.
That's not the world we live in. The world we live in is someone says boo and now you're gone.
Yeah, you're guilty, and it drives me crazy. And it sucks that it's seeped all the way down into RPGs. I mean, we're just full of it. That's one of the reasons. I tell you what crossed my mind this week, Joe, that I think I'm done. I think I may be done buying RPG stuff, just because I just hate. There's that part of the hobby grates at me so bad that I can't buy WotC stuff. I can't buy Paizo stuff. And really in the end, do I need anything else? No. I probably should just quit buying stuff. I don't mean quit playing, just quit buying stuff. Who cares?
I mean, that's why we started the podcast. At least that's what my major motivation was because I couldn't hear any that didn't have that ugly crap come up. This orcs are black people somehow.
Oh my gosh.
And it's various incarnations across
all the derivatives of that.
Yeah,
yep.
It's just dumb because it doesn't mean that. It never has. It's if a person thinks that and then is offended, that's them. And that's their right. They can be offended and think that all they want. It's just not true.
But you being offended, guess what that means to me or anybody else? Nothing. Okay, you're offended. So don't listen, don't go, don't buy. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Don't try to destroy somebody's livelihood because you're offended by the fact that they think homosexuality is a sin. I mean, get over it. Get over yourself.
Or the idea that gameplay, how do you say this? The idea, they use words like harm.
Yeah, harm, violence. Words are violence.
Yeah, this is harmful. And I'm like, no, you may not like it. And it might be creepy. There might be like who's it?
Smith
when
stuff.
We were just talking about
Lamentations and all that crap, Zach Smith.
Kobold,
yeah.
Right. So did he harm them?
No.
He offended them and he was a creep.
And so they could all quit it. They could have all quit his game and said, dude, we ain't playing with you, weirdo. Though if they're his friends, they say, dude, what are you doing?
Right.
I mean, are you trying to hit on this chick? I mean, are you trying to do something gross? Are you just being creepy? If not, if you did that innocently thinking, man, this will be really an intense scene, which might have been what he was doing, and if it was, it's like, it's not intense. It's disgusting and don't do it. Apologize and maybe we can keep going. Because that's what you do if you're friends. But who knows if they're really friends?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. So, another reason why I was thinking about making an RPG, cobbling crap together from the various ones that we do like, and not worrying about buying anything because you never know. You might have woke riffs at some point.
Yeah, dude. Who knows? Well, I just feel like that's where the hobby is going. And it's funny, dude. Did you hear? DC Comics is no longer producing comics as of July.
What?
Yep.
Okay, so none of their comics are going to press.
That's not true. I lied.
Okay, so what
listen,
are they? Are they coming? Are they
6 or 7 titles? That's it. That's all AT&T is letting them produce because
AT&T?
Yeah, they own DC. Have for a while now.
Oh, that's weird.
And Warner Brothers and all that stuff. I think they're all connected. Anyway, long story short.
Yeah.
And because of all that, honestly, because of all their stupid woke crap and their reinvention of things, their sales have plummeted. And I don't think Marvel is that far behind. No. I've read because the only thing that's keeping them afloat is their movie stuff, and that don't fly with the business guys. They're like, let's just do movie stuff, And so I think DC is struggling. They're going to do Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Justice League, probably a Harley Quinn because she's really popular with some of the younger folks, and maybe, I don't know, but whatever. I mean, she was funny in the cartoon, but she's gone way off the rails.
Yeah.
And then Green Lantern or something. That's it. That's all they're doing. And I have a couple of these big. They're called DC Black. They're big comics, and I think they're going to be like not even monthly. They're going to be every 3 months.
Wow. Are they just firing everybody?
I think so.
Well, I think a lot of the
this is
writers and artists and stuff that a lot of the titles, they're not employees anyway. They're contractors or something like that.
Correct. But still, they're in the bullpen, and a lot of them are very left.
Mm-hmm.
And they think they would say it, but I've looked at the comic. I can't read modern comics. They're way too preachy, dude.
I have to find out which ones these were. The one podcast I listened to that one of the ones you wouldn't listen to.
One of your libertarian ones?
No. You just couldn't get into it. No Agenda. So,
right. I like those guys, but I can't get into the podcast.
Right. So No Agenda, there's one of their listeners, they call them producers. He's either an artist or writer at one of the comic books.
Oh.
And
one of the big two?
I can't remember who, but okay. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
And he snuck in some anti-war stuff. Well, everybody, all the political class loves Israel and thinks we should be over there and give Israel all our money, seems like. And so I think this fellow snuck in some essentially anti-war propaganda in the shadows of, so it wasn't the prominent part of the art, it was the shadow. And just I can't remember the details.
Artists can do that. They can sneak some stuff in there. Yeah.
Right. So and as far as I know, this fellow's not really left, but he's not a progressive, woke left person.
Right.
He might be left leaning.
Yeah, sure.
Which is fine. I don't care.
No, I don't care either.
But so I wonder what he's doing, this fellow. Anyway, you mentioned comics. I just thought of that.
Well, it's just something that shocked me. I mean, I could tell it shocked you too. That's a titan of. That's a.
I mean, they got like 50 titles or 100 titles or something.
More than that. That's a pillar of my lifetime, dude.
Right.
If Marvel would have go down like that, and I think, and Deb, we were talking to bed the other night, my wife and I, we were talking, and she goes, Randy, I don't think they can capture the young people today. I don't think so either. And they're listening to this which I hope it's a extreme vocal Twitter sphere of crybabies about left-wing bullcrap, and Marvel produces the new Warriors with characters like, I'm not kidding you, there's a character named Safe Space.
Yeah, those guys.
And Snowflake.
Yeah.
And we're making fun of those names. No, you're literally a non-binary hero. It's like, come on, are you kidding me? The only thing I can say good about that is at least they're making new heroes. They're not all of a sudden turning Horn Dog Iceman Bobby Drake into a homosexual, which Marvel did.
Right.
It's beyond stupid. Just go ahead and rip all the characters from my childhood and destroy them. Why don't you do that?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. So
Yep.
instead of having their own thing, they got to take another thing. That's because as creative as people think the left it is,
They're not. They're
and
bereft of it.
well, once you get to that part, that so far,
Mm-hmm.
you're not, you're overlaying. You might be able to be creative, but you can't get out of your way to be woke.
Yep.
You're woke first and an artist second. If you would just do your artistic thing you put your artistic sensibilities in front, you can still be somewhat woke. I mean,
Yep.
there's long history of artists that, you know, they're not getting, a lot of them aren't conservative,
Oh, sure.
but they still put out good stuff.
Yeah.
And there's little touches of their leanings in them.
You can't keep your leanings completely. I don't expect you to, but don't preach at me, and don't scold me for not believing this, and don't slap me in the face with stupid ideas.
They put the woke first.
Yep.
And they can't be creative. I mean,
correct. It blocks you. It's okay. I've got to build a conservative Christian superhero, and he has to believe exactly like me.
Right.
That's going to take some work. I'm already putting myself in a box.
Right.
Right. So, whereas, you know, you start building this hero and you go, wow, he comes to this dilemma. And I'm like, you know, I wouldn't do, I don't think that, I think this guy has the right mindset. He wouldn't do this, or he would do this, or he would say that, which is clearly coming from me as a writer, because, you know, my beliefs and my Christian faith, and it would come through to a degree. That's okay. But it isn't, that's not what they're doing. They're just laying it all like and blasting you, making everything else bad. And, you know, I just tell you, I don't know, it drives me crazy.
So, yeah. So, that's why I wanted us to do the ranty thing and get it out of our system.
And being here at the end, it's going to help. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to put this unobtrusively in the episode, but then it's not going to be in the main section.
Yeah. So cool.
So, done with rant, on to better things.
Yes.